Come here. Hi, what's your name?
Dalton.
Dalton. Dalton, I'd like you to help me with something, okay? Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to have you start my presentation for me. Does that sound okay? Great, okay. Well, what I'm going to need you to do, watch my hands. Will you watch my hands? Is you're going to move your finger, look at my hands. Move your finger all the way up to where it says slideshow. I'll do that part for you. Now over here, you see the green arrow and it says from beginning. Do you see how when I go over it, it turns yellow? Okay, do you think you can click on that for me? Beautiful, buddy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so what you've just witnessed is some social interaction. Now, social interaction is not something that's new to any of us, but what I'm going to talk to you about is about a psychologist, a Soviet psychologist, who came up with this idea, or really kind of made this idea a big deal, that social interaction and the ability of socialism, of your social life and your cultural life to influence your cognitive development are critical. And this is Mr. Lev Vygotsky. Mr. Vygotsky was a Soviet psychologist. I'll get into more of that in just a moment. Okay, so his history. So he was a Soviet psychologist. He worked mostly in the area of developmental psychology. One of the big ideas that he had is cultural historical theory of cognitive development. A lot of really big fancy words there. He, of course, believed, so if you kind of want to look at it as a general, he believed that community played a very critical role in the process of making meaning. That's developing your brain and making it work correctly and understanding things and being able to decipher and being able to comprehend. His theories, unfortunately, are incomplete due to his death, at an untimely death at age 38 from tuberculosis. But a lot of different people have filled in those gaps over time, and over the last 30 years or so, it's become kind of an even bigger deal, an even bigger issue, something that's been talked about a lot more over the last 30 to 40 years. In general, just kind of from this page, what I like to do is give you a little bit of a summary of what I've just talked about. On this page, really the theme I want you to grab is the idea that society and culture affect cognitive development, okay? So social interaction. Baby, don't touch it, okay?
I'm excited to.
Okay, but don't touch it, okay? Social interaction, culture affects cognitive development. That was kind of at the forefront of his idea. Social factors also contribute to cognitive development. Cognitive development results from an internalization of language, and of course, again, that adults play an important role in cognitive development, as hopefully you were just able to see with my son participating in the starting of the presentation. So the role of culture in the development of higher mental functions is really the theme from this page. The culture and society will have the greatest effect on being able to function mentally at a much higher level, which is of course what we want for all of our students and our children. There are some assumptions that he made, or that he kind of put into practice. The first one is that adults convey to children the way their culture interprets and responds to the world. One small example of that, my son was actually arguing with someone the other day who said that we were driving a car, and he felt like that wasn't true because our family calls it a Jeep, so it's not a car. And so he was very adamant about that, but of course that's the cultural influence of his family coming out in him. Thought and language become increasingly independent in the first few years. I think that's something that a lot of us as parents have experienced. Complex mental processes begin as social activities, which is actually a pretty interesting idea, that if you allow them to engage socially, you're going to get more complex mental processes coming out of those children. And children can perform more challenging tasks when assisted by a more advanced and competent individual. And I'll get into more of that later. That, of course, is going to be one of the theories that I'm going to talk about. Social interaction. Young children are curious, obviously, and they are actively involved. Social interactions will, of course, affect this. Social interaction with a tutor. This was an interesting idea. The social interaction with a tutor was allowing just the idea of having someone, of course, more competent, more advanced, guiding them through the process, showing them the hows, the whys, the whens, the whats. Just something as simple as a task of getting a block inside of one of those little toys. When they know that the block goes inside, but they're not developed enough to know how to turn it or manipulate it to get it to actually go into the box, they need the assistance of someone else more competent to be able to show them how to do that. Myself being the tutor, showing my son how to use a laptop, he knows how to use a tablet, but he's not really familiar with a laptop. So by showing it or demonstrating it as a tutor, he was able to better understand what the task was and to be able to do it effectively. The zone of proximal development, so this is the idea that I was kind of talking about before. If you are watching them, you are near them and you're watching them do something. So if you are the novice, the one that's learning, and you're observing someone more advanced, completing a task like reading a book, something like that for a child under the age of 1 wouldn't really know how to read a book, but they watch you read a book. And so when they get ready to do that, they know to open it the right way. They know where the cover is. They know where to start reading. Maybe they don't know how to read, but they know where to start reading. And they've learned that from you, the adult. And that was one of Vygotsky's main ideas, was that most of what they learn comes from the adult in their lives, or the adults in their lives. Okay, so classroom application of his ideas, that's always the most important for us. We want to know how we can use these resources in our classrooms. The reciprocal teaching approach, summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. For the reciprocal approach, we kind of present it, put it out there, and then slowly start to back away. So the novice becomes the teacher, right? The student becomes the teacher. And that idea is something that we can use in our classrooms. We can actually summarize. We can start to go through the questioning process. We can clarify any areas that are sort of still foggy or hazy for the student, and really kind of start leaving them to make predictions about what to do moving forward and giving them that opportunity to take ownership. Scaffolding, I know that a lot of us have experienced scaffolding to be able to provide students with the gaps that they need to be able to fill that in. Collaborative learning is huge. One of the ideas that Vygotsky came up with, or tried to promote, I guess didn't come up with it, is the idea that just allow them to interact socially. Allow them to play around, allow them to do those things, allow them to engage with one another. So one interesting strategy there that I was kind of thinking of for collaborative learning is almost to allow the students, it's kind of scary for us, to begin class in groups, but without any sort of instruction. So kind of watch them go through the process of, hey, what's going on here? What are we supposed to be doing? And they sort of come to realize what they should or shouldn't be doing based on that collaboration with the people sitting with them at their tables. I thought that'd be kind of an interesting way to apply it. So this is my suggestion to you, class. The first step would be to actually observe a child, so locate a child either in your own family or a friend's child or someone at school if you happen to still be teaching over the summer, and observe the child attempting to complete a task that is rather unfamiliar to them. Then provide the child with a visual demonstration of the task being completed effectively. Follow that up with observing the child a second time completing the task, and take note of the differences between the first and second attempt. Another suggestion here would be to kind of consider the same idea, observe a child completing a task that's unfamiliar to them, but then instead of providing them with a visual demonstration of the task being completed, sort of talk to them about what's going on and why it's happening, and what is the goal here, to kind of see if they can be motivated enough to figure it out on their own, so maybe kind of next level. And then again, make the observation for the second attempt to see what the differences are, just to kind of give you an idea of which strategy is perhaps the best. And then something for our class discussion, I think for us to be able to always kind of see it through our own eyes. for example, something like this, I mean, this isn't necessarily something that I thought I was going to be very good at. And maybe I have ways I can improve, but I actually watched a lot of the videos that were provided by some of the people who turned it in before me, which is an interesting demonstration of this exact principle. I watched people who were more experienced than me complete the task in order to gain the confidence to be able to do this right now. So it's interesting. But what I'd like for you all to do is to discuss a time in your life when you observed a more experienced person completing a task and how it affected your completion of the same task. Another example I like to kind of throw out is softball. For me, it's not something that kind of came naturally to me. I wasn't put in softball until I was a little bit older, into high school. And a lot of the players were much more experienced than I was. So I kind of just hung back and observed them and their strategies and their methods and the way that they actually would walk up to the plate, as simple as that, the way that they would hold the bat. Because I didn't want to not know, I observed that, and it actually made me a better player, being able to just observe. Okay, Dalton, I need your help again. All right. Can you move the mouse over to the X? Good, you almost there, almost there. Up, nope, hold on, baby. Okay, up to this X. Closer, a little bit more, up a little bit. All right, click the button. Good job. Can you wave bye? Thank you.